Okay. All right. So we're rolling.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is Patrick. He's agreed to be interviewed about this subject. What do you think happens after this life? So have about a minute to think about it. What's your reaction to that question?
I'm an atheist. I believe when we die, we rot away and become the food for the next life. The worms,
yeah. So like we basically just consist of the energy that's in our body and the materials, and once
we die, our
decomposes,
consciousness is gone. We no longer exist, and we make way for the new consciousnesses to come and take over.
Yeah. So have you felt that way, believed that all your life, or was there a certain point where you
kind of. I questioned it as a child. I was raised a Catholic. I went to a Catholic school for 8 years until high school, and I just, the more and more I learned about life, the more and more I saw, and I don't know, just the things that I see and my surroundings and every people and all this, I just don't see how it could be possible.
Yeah. As far as like that we have
that there's a higher power and we have a
power.
soul, and we're going to go to heaven or hell or any of those other places.
Yeah. How do you deal with the ultimate questions of like where did we come from? Like not talking about evolution so much, but just where did existence come from? You know, like that's always the big question, right? Like what came before the Big Bang, if there was a Big Bang?
Right, and I don't know that we'll ever answer that.
No.
To me, it's similar to the question of does God exist? We'll never know that for positive until we actually die, and then it would be answered for sure, I would hope.
Yeah.
But I just don't see the evidence towards God. I see more evidence towards the Big Bang and the primordial sludge and all that stuff.
Yeah. Do you would you say that you're pretty much scientifically oriented, or like science
is
pretty important?
I love science. I love biology. I love chemistry, and I love to learn.
Yeah. Is that your profession? Are you in?
No, actually, I work in a warehouse.
Oh, okay.
So
but you like to just learn as much as you can.
Yeah, I read all the time.
Yeah.
Love to talk to people and just.
Yeah. Now, so Catholicism, which is where you came from, I'm a Christian. I'm not a Catholic, but so they're both faiths, you know. So
right.
So they don't claim to be based on science. Obviously, they're. I know there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I can prove God exists," right? But I'll be the first to say I can't prove that God exists. You know that it is a faith. I, as a Christian, believe I have a reasonable faith, you know, based on evidence. But just because you have evidence doesn't mean you have proof. See what I'm saying?
And I can't prove God doesn't exist.
Right.
So
right. Now, when you call yourself an atheist, are you aware of the difference? I'm sure you are, between like agnostic and atheist and all that sort of thing. So you choose the term atheist as far as
because I don't believe there's any existence.
Yeah.
I don't I don't question it. I'm pretty convinced that there's no God, there's no afterlife, there's no guy up in a white robe making our decisions for us or anything.
Yeah. So, as far as you know, like agnostic is someone who kind of has questions and doubts and is not sure either way, kind of thing, and you're more sure on the atheist side,
right?
But couldn't prove it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if you're aware that like the definition of agnostic is ignorant, you know, like in the original Latin, it means, you know, without knowledge. And so basically it's saying, I don't know, you know, which in my mind is like, you know, like with the atheistic perspective, you have to basically say God doesn't exist Would you say it's a faith that you believe that God doesn't exist, or a proof? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
and you know it's not a proof.
Can't say it's a proof, but
Yeah.
I mean, it really would take a lot to convince me.
Yeah. What would it take? What do you think it would take?
I think it would take God saying, "Hey, here I am."
Yeah.
Because I mean, other people have tried to show me the Bible. They've tried to give me for instances. They've quotes from books and just they've tried to explain it away, and it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
have you had a lot of people that you know well trying to convince you of their faith, or?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Probably your family. Or no? They've probably given up on you.
Most of my family has learned to accept me as I am. As far as I know, all my family are believers. I know my mother prays for me. I do not talk to my mother anymore, partially because of her religion, and a lot of it is her stances with her religion. I have other people who I've known on Facebook and they've tried to convince me. I do have another friend who occasionally brings up stuff that he's read and things, and doesn't work.
Send it your way.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's easy to get in I guess heated conversations on Facebook, or when you're not.
Yeah, in fact, I was just unfriended recently. It was more given up on recently.
Yeah.
Because of this person is anti-gay marriage, which I'm not. I don't believe it's anyone's privilege to tell other people what they can and cannot do with their lives.
Yeah.
And I confronted him on it on Facebook and told him it's really none of his business, no long drawn out conversation, and then some of his friends came in to back him up, and I pretty much told him, I'm like, you're wasting your time on me, you're never going to change me, I'm never going to believe in God, and then he unfriended me and gave up, so.
Just to give you my perspective, I had a friend on Facebook. I'd never met him before, but somehow he just kind of saw my site and saw that I was a Christian and started arguing with me. And so I kind of went back and forth, probably it was about a year that he was atheist living in England. And so probably no chance I'd ever meet him or anything like that. But we had these conversations going back and forth. And I finally did unfriend him, and it was because I was spending many of my waking hours thinking through all the arguments, and almost like a chess game,
Yeah.
If I say this, then he'll say that, And after a certain point, I realized it's taking up more of my energy than I realize, and the people in my life deserve that energy, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would be why this guy unfriended you.
Well, I mean, I met him once, and he was the spouse of a friend of mine.
Okay.
And at the time I met him, they were still married, but he was abusive to her.
Oh.
And they divorced and separated, and they had 2 kids together, and it was a really bad breakup for her. But her and I remained friends for another almost 30 years, and he just recently, within the last couple of years, friended me on Facebook. I don't know why. He wasn't friends with his wife, or his ex-wife, but he just, I think he somehow ran across some of my posts about being an atheist and decided that he's going to change me, and that was his goal, was to convince me of God's existence and Christianity. And then I point out his hypocrisy about all of the things that he's posting and saying in his previous life, and he says he's changed and he says he's become a better person, and it's like, well, I don't know that because I don't know you.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's okay what you did. It was like
it's hard to have these conversations out of context, out of the context of relationship, on Facebook and stuff like that.
Right.
let me ask you this question. Getting back to like, what would it take for God to prove Himself to you? Mm-hmm. Would you prefer, like, if you had a choice, would you like God to show you in like 1,000 little ways throughout your life, or one big way right now? I've never asked that before. I just thought of the question.
Well, I think if, God, the definition of God as most churches portray Him is all-powerful. And if He...
And I would add creator, like the
creator
the creator
of the universe,
and we see the creation kind of thing.
Right, and if He would show me that He could fix all the problems in the world, then I could see, okay, maybe there is a possibility God exists. If all the horrible, and there are horrible things that are happening in this world today and in the past, and that's one of the reasons why I can't possibly believe that God exists.
Yeah.
Because of all these horrible things. And they throw in the free will and all this other stuff, and it's like, I can't see a being who has the power to stop these horrible things from happening to babies, to children, to innocent people. And He just lets them go and lets those things happen, and lets people suffer.
Yeah.
And not even just me. I mean, I can take most of the stuff. I mean, I'm living proof that I've survived the things that have happened to me in the past. Mm-hmm. But there are other people who just horrible things are happening to right now.
Yeah.
And I just can't see a supreme being letting that happen.
If what if God was to take all the bad things that are happening right now and stop half of them?
It wouldn't be enough.
It wouldn't be enough.
It couldn't be enough because there's still half of them being happening.
Right.
I mean, it's
so like if there was 100 people suffering and He stopped 99, it still wouldn't be enough.
No, because why? I mean, why is that one person still suffering? What did that person do that deserves the suffering? And God is supposed to be all forgiving, and if He's forgiving, then what could this person possibly do that you're not forgiving Him for?
Do you, so when you think of God, I guess you're thinking of, you're basically thinking of any kind of a God, right? Any kind of supreme being. Right. So not necessarily the Christian or biblical God.
Right.
But,
Allah or,
now,
any...
do you automatically assume that God has to be loving? Is it possible God could have made everything and just be plain, like a prankster, or not evil? Do you think God could be? Do you think it could be like you're saying? There's no God of any sort, good, bad.
Well, then He wouldn't
loving.
really be God, would He? According to how most
Christian,
people define Him.
Yeah. I guess I can't think of any religion that would say God is. When I think of some of the religions that have multiple gods, some of them are like pranksters, right?
Right.
So I always.
But then there's multiple gods, so then the whole definition is.
Yeah, like the creator thing goes out the window because.
I mean, unless it was a committee. Then I might be more likely to believe it because I've seen some committees and what they do and
right.
how they resolve problems.
That is one way to explain all the problems in the world is, like all these gods just can't get it together because they're all,
but then
trying to undermine each other and everything.
Yeah, but then they're not really gods. I mean, then there's no one in control.
Yeah.
Then there's a bunch in control, and then we go back to who created them.
Yeah. Now, so you're coming from a Catholic background. You're aware of the Christian explanation of evil, or would you say that?
Yeah, and I just find it like it's like somebody made it up because they couldn't argue. It's like, we have to come up with an argument against why there's bad in the world, so let's make up this whole Satan thing.
Yeah. I mean, the question of evil, that's probably, I think, probably the most common reason that people are atheists, wouldn't you say? Or it's like...
I think so. It's that and just the lack of proof. I mean...
Yeah. So, you kind of, I'm sure you realize you're assuming that because there's questions we can't answer, that doesn't prove there's no God, or it doesn't.
Right, but
yeah,
to me, to say there's a God, that brings more questions, a lot more questions to the whole thing than to say there is no God.
yeah,
When you say there is no God, the main question is, okay, who created us?
yeah,
When you say there is a God, well, then there's 10 million questions. Okay, someone created us, but then why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why do you do that? And how do you explain this? And,
yeah, yeah.
but when there is no God, it's like there's one question, and it's you can theorize.
Now you say you've dealt with the question of like free will and stuff. Well, what did you think of that? Like you feel like that's just not a good reason,
I think it's another excuse for why there's bad in the world. Oh, God gave us free will, and that's I'm like, well, even if God gave us free will, He made us, and why would He make us to be bad and do bad things, or to want to do bad things? I mean, if he gave us free will, okay, I'm going to give you free will, but I'm going to create you as a great person, a great being that's going to continue on with my greatness and share my greatness with others. Why would I say, well, you're going to be bad?
Yeah.
Just for kicks.
Right. I mean, I can't answer it. Like I have some theories, ideas that somehow the people who do honor God with their free will and live for God, that's more important to God somehow than the suffering that the evil causes. Those that those that choose evil, like somehow I gotta believe that the evil in the world is somehow worth it to God, which is hard to say. It's very hard to say.
It's horrible to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrible to think that He's like saying, okay, we'll let these children suffer over here because this guy is praising me.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Like one way to look at it, though, is from the Christian perspective. It's in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve, they rebel against God through eating from this tree that they're not supposed to eat from, right? So God had told them, don't do it. Actually, He told Adam, and then when Eve was created, Adam, I guess, was supposed to tell Eve. So he didn't do his job, apparently. But because Eve was the first one to eat from the tree, and then she convinces Adam to do it. If they were to, because God said, if you do it, you will die, right? So if they were to get God's total wrath and anger at breaking His rules and disobeying God, He would have just zapped them right then. They would have died right then. That'd be it. End of story. So from a Christian perspective, we actually see God's, not the fact that He doesn't punish, but that He doesn't punish right away is a sign of mercy. So we actually believe that God is showing mercy even now by restraining evil. So that's why I asked that question. What if you could, if God got rid of half the evil in the world, would
why was there ever evil? I mean,
well, I can't.
That I don't understand.
That's why I have to say somehow it's.
I mean, He's the creator. He's all good.
He's able to
make evil. He had to have made it because He created us.
Yeah, somehow He's able to accomplish His purposes with evil and with good.
But what is His purpose?
Well, according to the Bible, it's that He would be glorified.
So it's all about Him.
Yes.
So I don't understand. So He's self-motivated. I don't want to. So why would we want to praise Him and worship Him if it's all about Him?
Kind of a good example is the Bible says I'm a jealous God. God says this, I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, right? What we do when we think about that is we think about the worst person that we know who's jealous, maybe that his wife, whatever, some little petty little things, right? And so we compare God to that. And so to think about God being jealous from a human point of view, we think that's a flaw in his character, that he's not. If how can I put this? If I thought that I was God somehow, and I expected all the world to bow down to me, and I see the whole world bowing down to someone else, right? Or bowing down to God, the real God, I would be a pretty petty individual, because I don't deserve to be jealous, because I don't deserve to have the whole world bow down to me. See what I'm saying? But if God really is God, the creator of the universe, you know, and we're just now starting to realize how vast, infinitely vast this universe is. Like, the ultimate creator of all of that, and all that exists, and the one who didn't just create it, but we believe God holds it together. Like, it doesn't have to, you know, like, he would be the lawgiver. He would be the one who keeps gravity in motion, for example, or, you know, inertia, or all the different physical laws of the universe. He would be the one who maintains all that. Like, he would have that kind of power. And so if God was like that, then he would deserve all of the attention and the accolades and the, you know, the glory. And so if God is a good God, he would believe in the same way a good judge would believe in justice. You know, like, you like justice, right? You want to see the guilty punished and the, you know, the innocent go free, and we like justice. We like things to be right. So if God is good, he would love justice, and justice would demand that he receive all the glory. I'm not saying you have to agree with me, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so we can't judge God from a human standard, like God's another human. We have to judge God like he's God. And so to say God created everything so he could receive all the glory is saying so that he could be truly seen for who he is. And so the way he does that is he displays his attributes in different ways. And so there's a lot of attributes of God's that couldn't be displayed if there was no evil. Now, I don't believe God needs evil, but I believe he has chosen to allow evil, you know, like, so.
I just don't understand why he would need it.
Yeah, so.
Or want it.
Yeah, so, like, when the Bible says, in the beginning God created, that's so profound, a lot of times we pass by it, but it basically says in the beginning God existed. In other words, God already existed forever. There was no beginning with God. And then he brings everything else into the beginning. And so I believe that God existed forever before everything was created and was fine with it. You know, like he doesn't need us, and he doesn't need, but for some reason he decided he wanted to create the creation, you know, the universe, for his purposes. And the big mistake that a lot of religions make actually is to say it's all about us. You know, like God is a loving God and he owes us something. And, you know,
well, and a lot of religions say that we are God's ultimate creation. Like, yeah, God
like,
made, humans are above everything else and above everyone else, and you know, some even say, okay, the whites are the ones that are God's ultimate creation, and you know, animals mean nothing, plants mean nothing, and everything there is put here for our use.
Yeah.
You know, and it's okay for us to burn fossil fuel and throw our garbage out the windows and all that, because God put us here and gave us all this stuff, so we can do whatever we want with it.
I mean, I know there's
which
a lot
I find totally ridiculous.
Yes, and I mean, the Bible says God like put Adam in the garden to take care of it. I believe that applies to the whole world. We're here to take care of it, you know. And
but we don't.
Think,
and
no. And there's a
why
lot
is God not doing something about that? Why is he punishing the innocent for the stuff that the evil do? And I don't care what anyone says. Dick Cheney is evil, and God needs to punish him if he exists, and he hasn't. And instead, he's well, just because he's a horrible person, and he's. But you know, and it was the same Adolf Hitler. I mean, they're terrible people, but they were allowed to get power and money, and
Yeah.
they lived these lavish lifestyles, so they didn't suffer at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't get why. You know, you have these poor, starving children in Africa who've never done anything to anybody, but they're feeling horrible pain because of all this, and they're suffering because God's mad at what Eve did.
Well, yeah. Now, but it wasn't just Eve. Like, there's other evil people in the world too, right? Like Adam and Eve. We can't blame them. See what I'm saying?
Well, I mean that, but
So-
I'm going by the Catholic version, which is, you know, that's the original sin,
yeah.
and that's why all the bad things are happening because of that. Which,
Yeah.
you know,
well, I mean, so the Bible does say that God put a curse on the world, and so like the whole idea that there's now thorns, you know, where there wasn't before, and I believe, I mean, the diseases and storms and all of these, death basically came into the world as a result of that curse, you know. So, but I can't blame Adam for the sins I've committed, because, you know, like Adam and Eve, they were given the knowledge of good and evil, right? So basically, they and all their descendants now, we all have the knowledge of good and evil. Like, you have a conscience, I'm sure. You have a set of beliefs about what's good and what's evil, and you've referred to that already quite a bit, you know, like it's terrible, these things are terrible, and these things are not. And so we all have this conscience, and we know better, and yet we do wrong anyway. And so that's really what religion is about, is like, how can we be reconciled with our Creator if we've broken His rules that He's put in our conscience, in our heart, you know? So every religion tries to solve that in different ways.
right, and some religions try to solve it in several different ways than just one religion. I mean, like, you have evangelicals, you have like 20 different people say 20 different things
Yeah.
about whatever it is the topic of the day is, and for God to allow people to use His name that way,
Yeah.
you know, to take His name and do these horrible things. I mean, you look at just some of the things Pat Robertson says, and, you know, I just want to smack him upside the head. And
Yeah.
why is God letting this man, who's like a billionaire, use his name to do all this without any sort of punishment whatsoever? And I don't believe in this, you know, internal or forever punishment in hell, you know, just because you don't believe in something. But he's okay because, you know, he's going to be on his deathbed and ask for forgiveness, and he's going to be fine and live in heaven. But because I'm an atheist, I'm going to burn in hell for an eternity? That just
Right.
doesn't make sense
Now,
to me.
as far as your understanding of Christianity, we would say that you would go to hell because you don't believe in God, or because you have broken His laws. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the Christian term is because you've sinned. You know, would you think?
Well, see, and that's another thing that is a conflict. Okay, now I've been baptized as a Catholic, so that was my ticket into heaven. So, but now I'm an atheist. So
Yeah.
now what does He do with me?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, like I'm not. I actually go to a church that doesn't. We believe in what's called believers' baptism. So there's differences between different churches about when a person can be baptized. I was actually baptized as an infant in the Lutheran Church, and for many years that was really important to me. I believed God made promises to my parents, as long, you know, it's like a covenant, and they would raise me up Christian, and that He would. It's like God saved me, reached out to me before I ever reached out to Him, and I still believe that.
And what if your parents became crackheads or whatever, and they didn't raise you that way?
Right.
So then, are you all of a sudden to
Well,
blame?
then the covenant is kind of broken.
Right, but then you're to blame because of your parents.
Yeah. Well, I definitely wouldn't have the advantage of growing up in a with Christian values and that sort of thing.
So just because of
Godly values.
your location, because of who you were stuck with,
Yeah.
so to say,
and that actually,
then it becomes your fault.
yeah, and that actually applies towards people of other religions that never hear about Jesus, right? They never hear about Christianity.
Yeah. So how
Yeah.
why is
So-
that?
So
Okay,
it's kind of like primary and secondary. The best way I can explain it is well, I don't know if it's the best way I can explain it, but if so, in the Bible, it talks about the law of sin and death. Basically, you sin, you die. In other words, you're separated from God by your sin. You've gone your own way. You've rebelled against God. You've done what you know is wrong, and so now God. There's a dividing line because God is holy and doesn't, He demands our allegiance and our worship. And when we sin, we're turning against Him, right? So sin and death. If I could kind of like use an analogy, the law of sin and death is like the law of gravity, okay? And so the natural result of jumping out of an airplane is that if you don't have a parachute on, you're going to meet the law of sin and the law of gravity. You're going to be killed by it, right? Now, if you jumped out of an airplane and you're falling and you see the ground coming and you blame the parachute that you don't have on your back, you can't say the parachute killed you. It's the gravity. It's meeting the ground head on like that. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, as from a biblical understanding, it's our sins that kill us, that puts us out of a relationship with God. The parachute would be Jesus. Like I put the parachute on and I hold on tight, and I'm not going to have to deal with the consequences of the law of sin and death because I have the parachute on. Now, to say, okay, I'm an atheist, I'm going to be punished because I don't believe in God, it's kind of like saying, well, forget the fact that I jumped out of the airplane, I'm blaming the parachute. When the reality is, you've broken God's laws. The Bible actually says that everybody, whether you believe in God or not, you know right from wrong. You have a conscience, and we all break it. So I'm not here to say, like I haven't.
But just because I don't believe in God doesn't make me a bad person. I mean,
okay. Just to give you a couple examples of how you'd be a bad person. Have you ever told a lie?
Yeah, but so have you.
Yes. So I'd be a bad person, and you'd be a bad person, right? You'd be, if you told a lie, you'd be a liar, right? Now I'm not being judgmental. I'm just kind of being logical.
Right.
If you told a lie, you'd be a liar, and it's wrong to lie, so you'd be a bad person because you lied, right? Have you ever taken anything in your life that didn't belong to you?
Yeah.
So logically speaking, you'd be a thief, right? I actually have two, and I'm not proud of it, but I'd be a thief too. This is one thief talking to another thief, right? So you would be a sinner, not having done things against God, even though you say you don't believe in God, doing things that you know were wrong and you did them anyway, right? Me too. So I can't say that if I died right now and I was judged by God and it was heaven or hell on the line, I can't say I would deserve heaven. I would deserve hell because of the bad things I've done. I mean, this is like 2 of the 10 commandments. I've broken every single one of them in one form or another. The Bible basically says everybody has broken God's laws at some point in their life. So keep referring to, like, are there good people? Well, there's good people relative to other people, like, if I want to feel good about myself, I could read the newspaper and find all sorts of serial killers and, people who have done horrible crimes and feel better about myself because relatively speaking to them, I'm a pretty good person, right? But the minute I open the Bible and I read the 10 Commandments, I think, uh-oh, broke that one. Uh-oh, broke that one. And it's not like, It's not like I could like change my life now and be innocent because I've already broken them. So the purpose isn't for God to just like get me on all of these things. It's more to help me to see that I need to be forgiven. There's some, it's like to kind of spell out exactly how have I rebelled against God. So I look at the Ten Commandments, I look at other things in the Bible, I look at the New Testament, and it says, if you know the good you ought to do and you don't do it, that too is sin. Man, I'm in trouble, So according to the Bible, you would be too. So there is a need for a Savior, and that's where Jesus comes in. Most religions teach that if you can be good enough, like if you can follow these rules and regulations, you can somehow earn your way to heaven. And even Christianity, there's a lot of people who call themselves Christians who believe that. They believe, hey, if I just go to church and put in my time and read my Bible and say my prayers and maybe even accept Jesus, which they don't really like. They're not like really understanding what that means to accept Jesus. It's just another one of many good things that they do and religious things that they do in order to be saved. So the Bible says, no, we can't save ourselves. We need a Savior. So I don't know, like, so getting back to all the good people in the world, would you consider yourself a good person? Like when you talk about there's people like Dick Cheney and Hitler and different people that are, they're getting away with murder while all the innocent people suffer. Which side would you be on? Would you be on the innocent side or would you be the oppressed or the oppressor? I guess would be the way to put it.
Well, when I'm at work, I feel like the oppressed.
Yeah.
But
are you in a union?
I'm not.
Okay. Probably so.
So, I wouldn't say that I'm a perfect human. I know I'm not perfect. I could be better in a lot of ways. But I'm not going to intentionally steal someone's money. I'm not going to intentionally hurt someone. If I hurt someone, it's usually by mistake. Mm-hmm. It's not like I intended to do that. It's just it was either misunderstood or I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm an oppressor. I certainly wouldn't. I don't try to control anybody else. I don't try to put my thoughts and my ideals on other people. Mm-hmm. I don't even push the fact that I don't believe in God. I mean, if you choose to believe in God, I don't care. That's your business. I mean, I think, you spend your time the way you want to spend your time. I'd rather sit and read a Stephen King novel than read the Bible because the Bible makes no sense to me.
Right. I think the Bible actually doesn't make any sense for anybody if you don't have a couple you have to look at it from there's a few requirements. So one would be to believe that there is a God. One would be that supernatural things are possible. In other words, the impossible is possible. If there's a God, then the impossible would be possible. So to read about the different miracles in the Bible. Well, they're called miracles for a reason because they're, miracles. they break the laws of physics. We try to explain them, but there's things.
You'd also have to be able to ignore parts of the Bible, or pretend they aren't real, or that
the
that
parts
shouldn't
about
be there.
Say genocide, things like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, any of those horrible things that are in the Bible and they're accepted, just the fact that they're in the Bible is proof to me that
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's contradictory. I mean, you have one part of the Bible that says one thing's okay, and then the next part of the Bible says it's not okay. Yeah, and that.
Yeah, part of that, I don't know if you've ever thought about what's the overall, what's called meta-narrative of the Bible. What's the big story? And the big story, I mean, I can't sum it all up. In general, the big story is God created man. We were like the highlight of his creation, you know. I don't know if you've ever read like first chapter of Genesis. It says everything he created was good, and then man was very good, you know, like this is it, right? But then and so a lot of people stop there, and then they read the rest of the Bible and forget about what happened, you know, the fall. So man rebelling against God and God cursing man. So they look at the whole Bible with the idea that God owes us something, that we're good and that he should be loving to us and that there should be no suffering in the world, and you know God's totally in control. And so then a lot of things don't make sense, you know. And so then we have to kind of pick and choose. Well, this I believe about God and this I don't, because God wouldn't do this and he would do that. So we kind of end up making our own God, you know, like coming up with our own imaginary God, which happens when you pick and choose and decide what you want to believe. So if, on the other hand, somehow we've been estranged from God as a race, as a human race, we've been alienated from God, and God is going through something to put us back into a right relationship with himself. If people suffer, if God is punishing people, but he's allowing people, he's withholding that punishment and giving us a chance, you know, and he's showing his mercy that way, but there's still going to be a punishment. He's just delaying it in his mercy. He doesn't have to do that. So like if you understand it that way, then it can kind of make sense. So God chooses a people, the Jewish people, to demonstrate, you know, to start to be in relationship with man again. And so if God chooses some people to show his mercy, and that's how he shows his that's how he glorifies himself, and others he shows his wrath or his anger or his power or his justice, giving us what we deserve for turning against him. That's so the whole idea is that God is sovereign. He does what he wants, and he's not beholden to anyone. We can't tell him what he should do. So if we have this idea that God is loving, he's always loving, and then we come across something in the Bible that doesn't look too loving, and we say, well, I reject that, and I reject that about God, and I will not believe in a God that does this, then we're basically saying God is not sovereign. He has to basically fit this picture that I have of God. So I think the thing that amazes me about Christianity, I read the Bible, I've read it over and over again. There is a meta-narrative, there's a larger story that everything fits in, and I actually feel like it makes sense to me, you know. I know it doesn't to you, but it's because you're looking at the individual parts with some certain assumptions about who God must be and not seeing the big picture. So I would say that you don't really have a complete understanding of what the Bible teaches, you know, just based on what you told me. I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, be offensive or anything. But
to be honest, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Because I don't see the point.
Yeah.
Because I can be the person that I am, whether I believe in God or not. I can be a good person. Either way, whether I believe in God or not, I could become a vegetarian if I want to be a vegetarian. I could give all my money to charity if I want to give all my money to charity. And I could spend my whole life in servitude to help others, whether I believe in God or not.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of atheists who give a lot of money to charity.
Yeah.
Just not God-based charity. And they're great people.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great people who are atheists. They believe in equality towards everybody. And there are some horrible, horrible people who are Christians or call themselves Christians.
Yeah.
And I just can't do that. I can't. To me, I see a lot more horrible people who are Christians than I do horrible people that are atheists.
Yeah.
And I can't put myself in that Christian camp when there are so many horrible people there, and that God allows those people to be there.
Yeah.
It's like, kick them out of camp. I mean, you have the power to kick them out of camp, and you're not doing it. So
Right.
you obviously don't care, or you're not doing
I've heard it
anything
said
about
that the biggest reason people become Christians is because they've seen genuine Christians in their life, and the biggest reason people don't become Christians is because they've seen some horrible Christians, or people who call themselves Christians. So I think that's very true, And
I'm still waiting to find that perfect, well, not perfect, but that really good Christian that can convince me, and it hasn't happened.
I think you'll be waiting a long time.
I think so too.
Just to give you an example, we had some people that lived on our block, a mother and her 2 sons, and she, I guess, I don't know what happened to the father, but she was a Christian. They weren't, or they were just kind of like, well, really what it was she was always going to church, every night of the week, going to church. And she left her 2 sons to kind of run the streets. And so they were, to me, that's an example of someone she's just not there. She's not, I would be judgmental of her as a Christian, even though she's really, really devoted to her church, and then there's some I guess you'd call them good old boys on the street who are always there, and they're always willing to listen to you, and offer you a beer if you want to go and talk to them, that kind of thing. They got tons of time. That's because they're not going to church all the time, and they're just kind of hanging out. But from what I've had different conversations with atheists, and I don't think I've ever met any who are atheists because they hate they hate all the rules of religion and want to just go out and live a life of sinful
and that's
debauchery or whatever.
That's kind of the concept that a lot of Christians put on atheists.
That is the concept.
And to me, that's not Christian.
Yeah. So what's going on, I believe, is I'll just give you my Christian perspective. What I believe is, in the Bible, when Adam was tempted by, and Eve were tempted by the devil, he said, if you eat from this tree, you can be like God, knowing good from evil. So the big temptation was, you can be like God. And so, as an atheist, I believe it's very tempting to say, well, I can be as good as God, and I can judge God and be actually better than the God I see in the Bible by being a moral person without His help. So I can be like God without God. I can be a God myself, And so it's kind of getting back to the original temptation that Satan presented in the very beginning, to be as good as God without God's help, and without even believing in God, to be better than the Christians without even believing in God.
I suppose you could look at it
very
that way,
attractive.
but I don't see myself as trying to be good because I'm trying to outdo somebody. I'm trying to be good because it's the right thing to do.
That's very good. I think then the other part of it is, I do think that there's a certain amount of moral superiority, especially in our culture, of being able to say, I've looked at the evidence and I'm just being honest. See what I'm saying? I'm just being honest with what I see. And the evidence isn't there for Christians. So if there is a God and I am brought to judgment, I can tell that God, well, I just acted according to what I saw. And I was being honest with myself. And so if you're going to punish me for being honest with myself, then so be it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the Bible actually says, that God, faith is what pleases God, and faith is believing in what you can't see. So there's something more important than being honest with physical evidence out there.
But I don't know. If I just don't see why he. To me, again, that's self-righteous. It's like, well, you should believe in me just because.
Yeah. Well.
Because I'm me, and
Yeah.
you're little pitiful you, and it's like, really?
Well, again, it would be self-righteous if it was a person, but if it's God, if you were, I'm just thinking of this analogy on the spot here. If you were gasoline and I was a car and I was like busy trying to run without the gasoline, you would have every reason to say, hey, you need me. Just, forget all those other things. You need me, God made us in a way that we need Him. And we try to find all these different substitutes for what only God can, He's kind of like the fuel that He made us to operate on. And so to say, well, God is jealous or God is self-righteous or,
But of course, this is all your interpretation of God and religion. And
yeah. Well,
I think just say that you're
it's
right.
based on a little bit of logic as far as if there is a creator. To me, it seems logical that we the creation would need the creator, to exist and to continue to exist. And it seems logical to say our relationship with that creator is pretty important. Like we don't want to be out of a right relationship with him. Like again, like it seems logical to say God deserves the glory and the.
To me, it doesn't seem logical.
Yeah.
I don't see the logic in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you, so, I guess I'm trying to figure out if if you say that God should be in control and should have everything figured out so there's no evil, no punishment in the world, would it be just a world of like robots then? I mean, if you were the creator of all this, how would you run things, I guess? I'm wondering.
I don't know. To me, I don't think I'd want to be creator.
No.
That's why I think it's just too random. I mean, I guess I just can't comprehend the world as vast as it is, and so many little tiny bitty parts of it. That how could someone be in control of all that? I can't comprehend it. It just and I know you're not supposed to be able to comprehend it's God.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't make sense. I mean it.
Yeah.
Like why mosquitoes?
Wood ticks.
Yeah,
Diseases,
I know.
Malaria, all that.
Purple martins need something to eat, and bats need something to eat. But
Right.
then why do we need purple martins and bats?
It's an amazing world. I mean, if you study science, and the bigger you get, the more vast it is, and the smaller you get as far as like micro, subatomic particles and everything. I mean,
I think the more we understand our surroundings, Earth and everything in it, and our universe and all that, the less God is pertinent. I mean, I think God is really just the universe. And as we understand the universe, we understand that that's what God is.
Do you feel like you have a purpose in life?
No, I don't. I honestly don't. I would love to have a purpose. And maybe that's part of it, because I don't feel like I have a purpose.
Yeah. I mean, you must have I guess you have goals, right?
Yeah, but to me they're menial. I mean, I think of what I wish I could do, but I just can't because monetary reasons, and I have my own personal things that are holding me back from what I
probably travel a lot and stuff like that.
No, I mean it's just I would love to travel, but it's just that I don't I don't have enough self-confidence. I don't have. I mean, I know I'm very intelligent. I just have a problem with using it, or even developing it, or understanding it, because I don't know where to go with it. And every day it's like I really should be doing something better, and I don't. And
it's hard. And I do feel like, I'll just tell you, like, as a Christian, my purpose in life is very different than what most religions would teach. In most religions, it's like, okay, I wanna have a future in heaven, or a better future, nirvana, or like all the different religions, and there are different names for it. And so most religions teach that somehow you can achieve that, heaven, or that, that ultimate goal. And but I became a Christian when I was in my late teens, and someone helped me to understand the biblical perspective that I have sinned, I've broken God's laws, and that I deserve hell. I know you don't agree with that, but just saying, try to understand that I deserve to go to hell, to be punished for rebelling against God, but that He took my punishment for me on the cross, right? So if Jesus is God's Son and He took my punishment for me on the cross, like He paid for the punishment I deserve 1,000,000 times over. Like I could never pay Him back, or I could never earn it, I could never deserve it, and I could never pay Him back. But I can tell Him thank you. I can respond with gratitude. And so for me, I'm actually a high school teacher, and my job is, I think I'm very grateful for the people who taught me how to read and write and gave me an education, and I want to give back to God for what He's done for me on the cross by helping my students. That's just an example, or helping my children, or helping my family, or helping people around me, helping hopefully strangers understand Christianity better. To me, it's all a purpose of living, of showing gratitude to God. And so, to me, that's a reason for living. It's not cowering, wondering, have I done enough, to make you happy, God? No, it's not about that. It's about showing gratitude. So, one of the last things Jesus said, His last week of life was, to His disciples, He said, if you'll love me, you'll keep my commandments. And so, when I first became a Christian, I started reading the Bible, because it was like, wow, He loves me enough to die for me. I love Him for doing that. I want to keep His commandments. I better learn what they are. I better read the Bible, and find out more about how to follow Him, how to live for Him. So that gives me some purpose in life. So I start these conversations. It's not about, I talk to enough people. I think Jehovah's Witnesses maybe believe this, that if, they're supposed to talk to a certain number of people, that they'll get heaven or whatever. And no, that's not what it's about. It's just trying to obey Jesus' commandments and show love to other people and share what's important to me and find out what makes others tick. So I appreciate your input. So I guess I can probably leave it at that. So can I ask you this last question, as far as like, okay, we're on camera, but other than that, just, a lot of Christians, we're called as Christians to share our faith, right? So a lot of Christians say, well, I don't know how to do it myself, so I'll just invite people to church, or I'll just go out on the street and just preach at people. So you've probably seen some, examples of that. How do you feel about this, as far as just like striking up a conversation with a complete stranger and just, I hear your point of view, you hear mine. Any reactions to that at all, or just what do you think?
I mean, it's great to get other people's perspective. I mean, and I don't have a problem talking with people. Like, this conversation was actually a nice conversation. You weren't preaching to me. You were telling me your version. You were telling me how you feel and what you think, and you didn't tell me that I need to think those things and I have to think those things, and that I'm going to burn in hell if I don't think those things, which, you know, is really not a threat to me anyway. But so to me, it's like another conversation. It's like, you know, we could talk about baseball, or we could talk about football, or well, I mean, I couldn't. I know nothing, very little about either, because I'm not a big sports person. But, you know, it's just about anything. Like, we could talk about evolution for an hour. So, you know, it's actually, it was quite enjoyable.
Good. And one of the things I try to do is I say, well, I understand you may not believe this, but do you understand what I'm saying? You know, and I think that's one thing that I can't, as a Christian, I don't believe I could make anyone believe anything. You know, it's, you know, we believe in the power of God's Spirit, the Holy Spirit, to do that. But I think, I don't know, maybe it's the school teacher in me. I just feel like I want to tell people what Christianity actually teaches, because a lot of people have, like, bad understandings of that, or, you know, have seen some bad examples.
And a lot of that is, you know, the people that get in the news and get on television and make the world a horrible place with their reaction.
The one thing that,
the way they treat people.
The one thing that gives me confidence, I guess, is Jesus himself said, many will come in my name, you know, teaching in my name, and there's many false prophets out there, and like Jesus predicted that, you know. So I'm not quite sure why God puts up with it, like you say. It's hard. It actually makes it hard for me as a Christian to be vocal, you know, open about my Christian beliefs, because people kind of put me in the category of some of the worst people that they've seen, you know. So that's hard.
I mean, my mother's a perfect example. She thinks that everyone should go to church, but she's like one of the biggest hypocrites. I mean, she goes to church every Sunday, and she's very active in her church, which, you know, to me, I think is great for someone her age. But, you know, she's also turned her back on some of her own children because of this. And
do you feel like she's cut you off, or is it mutual?
No, I've cut her off.
Oh.
Really, I mean, I've cut her off for some of the things she said and done in regards to me.
Yeah.
But she would like to continue and have a relationship with me, but I'm not interested.